Well, hello members. I'm going to take today and close out those two trades that in terms of the videos from what we did yesterday. Yesterday or I did, took the gold trade and shut that down. And I wanted to go over why the closure here and the short on the QQQ. So let's start with gold. Gold, as you know, I've talked about before, and I'll just do a quick, brief intro again. You got this angle of ascent that's about 45 degrees going this direction, right? And then you get the parabolic move, the big volume spurt, right? That's all characteristic of some sort of a range that's going to set up. The range is from the top to wherever it comes initially on the retrace, and then probably that range is going to get expanded at some point, and it's either going to be the top or the bottom of this particular bar here. That's probably going to be where it ends up. So somewhere in the 112.50, somewhere maybe as low as 110, and you have to think that's the range. Now, why close out the trade yesterday? Well, the reason for it is we'd picked it up. If you remember, we picked up the shares here on this retrace, and then we flipped some here and here as it went up, and then we were waiting to see if it was going to go up and test the top with the last third of it. Well, it started up there yesterday and reversed. And not only did it reverse, it actually closed underneath this particular bar where you see that little red line. And so that became resistance. My thought was, yeah, decent volume too, but my thought was is that reversal is not something I want to be caught in, so I sold out somewhere in this area yesterday and took my profits and said, okay, I'm going to wait. And what I'm going to wait for, I'm going to wait for it to come back into this area or potentially into this area or maybe down into this one or into this one, right? And you'll have to judge that as it comes down and make a decision as to whether you want to re-enter or not. Now, gold's bullish on this time frame and on the weekly time frame, trying to turn bullish on the monthly. So you don't want to be shorting. It's a one-way range. You don't want to be shorting it. What you want to do is find a spot to work your way back in on the long side. So that's the gold trade. QQQs. So here on the QQQs, we were using the PSQ, and I'll pop that chart up, which is an inverse, a one-to-one inverse of the QQQs, and we were going long this instrument, which is essentially a short against the QQQs. So when you do something like that, you try to use the underlying, and so we'll move back over, and what we were really using was the IXIC, right, the NASDAQ composite, and the NDX, and primarily the NDX, to make our decisions. And when we had looked at it, and these charts line up, so I'm just going to use this one. When we had looked at it, we had looked at this little ledge as the area, right, that we wanted to be paying attention to on any kind of a retrace. And if you go back and watch the earlier videos, you'll see that we actually had a hard time staying with this trade because it kept trying to break out up here. And we had entered the trade, on this bar and on that bar. And so we were trying to hold in there and see if it was going to roll over or not. And if it wasn't going to roll over, then we wanted to simply turn around, close that, hopefully for some profits, or at least for no big losses. So that was the trade. Well, yesterday it finally came back, and as it came back, if you look at what it did, it came back into the big bars, and I'm going to show you why these are the important bars. It came back into these bars and then started to reverse, and so we took some profits right at the bottom, and then on the reversal we took the rest out. Why were those bars important? Well, if you look over here, you've got volume on this bar and on this bar, which is essentially that one and that one. And so as it comes into this particular area right here, that's the key area. If the sellers are going to sell at lower and lower prices, they would have continued to sell yesterday instead of a reverse and go back the other way. And so that was the key yesterday morning when we saw it reversing. Actually, we took some out at decent profits, and then when it started reversing, we took out the rest at nothing, at no profits or loss, just break even basically. And so that was the trade. That was how the trade developed. That was why we got out of the trade. As a matter of fact, reversed into some long positions as a result of the reversal. Okay, that's the gold, that's the QQQ, that's how they played out. And those are historical now, so we'll leave them for that. Thanks.